We are live. Hello, welcome to episode 11 of the Dargan Podcast. And we are sat here with none other than Kitty Thompson, my granny. How are you today, Gran?
Wonderful, thank you. I'm alive.
You're living
Grateful for that.
When did you arrive?
When did I arrive? Last night.
Gran arrived in last night. When was the last time we seen each other? 2 months ago? A month ago?
Christmas time.
Was it? Yeah, okay, so great. So Gran has just landed in and I thought, you know what? We need to start getting guests on, and I want to get people on that I'm interested in, I can have great conversations with, that inspire me, people that I look up to. So I thought, of course, we need to get Gran on. You're someone that I've always looked up to, you know, someone that I've always looked up to and been inspired by your mindset and your approach and attitude to life. But I don't think you realise.
I don't.
I don't think you realise.
You're putting pressure on me.
No. But I don't think you realise that it is great.
Right.
So tell the people who you are, where you're from.
Right.
Kitty Thompson, baby, come on.
Well, actually, I was born, and when I was called Catherine Thompson, Catherine McCune, that was my right name. And I was born the oldest of three daughters. My mammy, my daddy, and I had 2 younger sisters, Morgan and Mary, who were twins.
Yeah.
And very, very close. So that was really the start.
When did it change from Catherine to Kitty?
I actually changed to Kitty when I left school at 15, and my first job was in the cooperative.
What's that?
It's a shop.
Was it? I didn't know.
It was an organisation.
Right, okay.
And it was, apparently you thought yourself were a toff because you got a job in the cooperative.
What's it off? Is that like someone who's above people?
Yeah,
Okay,
not
okay.
above. You thought you were privileged.
You'd made it?
Not really, but my family thought, my mum and my dad thought I did.
And what year was that?
What year?
Yeah.
Oh, when I left school? Oh my goodness, now you're asking.
Now
I was only 15
Now we're going back.
and I'm now 82.
Right, okay.
So you have to work out the math.
Oh, great. Well, I'm not good. I'm not good with maths on my feet. Give me a calculator, I'll be all
I
right.
was born in 1941, so I had 15 years on to now.
Right,
41.
Okay. Great. So you obviously you had Morgan, Mary, and then I would say probably from the outside looking in, one of the greatest achievements you've had is probably the family that you've raised, and that's one thing that, you know, I look at mum and the way that mum operates our family, and it's so family orientated. Like, we're such a close knit family, but I think that comes from you and the fact that you have always had that. Like, you have always had one another.
Yes.
And one thing that mum's always said to us is that you've got friends, you've got girlfriends, boyfriends, people come and go, but your family's there for life. And I think that you've really instilled that into her. So, yeah, tell the people how many kids did you have? Who was your first? Who was oldest?
I think being close to my family came from how I was brought up, though, because I didn't feel close to my family. Because Morgan and Mary were twins and we were very close, and my mother was very close to them. And I suppose my dad and I really were close. But I think what happened was my mother, worried about Morgan and Mary because they were twins. And I think she thought they were going to have a hard time and the world was going to do it to them. So I think she spent her time thinking about them quite a lot, and I felt like an outsider. Maybe not then, but there wasn't the same closeness there. My dad and I were very close. And I think that inspired me to make sure that if I ever had a family, grew up and had a family, that I would make sure they felt close to me and whoever their father was, so as that they could turn to us if anything was amiss, so they were concerned or worried about anything.
And you said you'd felt like a bit of an outcast. What impact do you think that had on your life? Obviously it had the impact where you wanted to you know, you wanted to start a family and have things differently. But what impact would you say that had on your life at the time?
I think at the time it made me more or less turn to outsiders, school friends, going to school and meeting friends at school, or children at school the same age as me, and growing up with them. And I got on better probably with outsiders. I could relate to them and listen to their stories and listen to how they were getting brought up and think, that's different from me and things like that.
And you've always been someone who, from the outside looking in, like, you've always been very bubbly, you've always been very charismatic and had a fantastic personality. And Morgan and Mary were the same, but this is obviously your two sisters, my two great aunties who have both passed away now, but they were a lot quieter. And do you think the reason that you maybe are so bubbly and so outgoing is because that you needed to make friends elsewhere, you needed to go out and speak to outsiders? Do you think that could have...
Quite possible. Now, Morgan and Mary were lovely girls.
Absolutely.
And they were very close and they lived a good life, both of them. And my mum and dad were very, very good people.
What did life look like when you were growing up? And so you grew up in, it was Coatbridge, obviously.
Yeah, Coatbridge.
So what did life look like growing up in, say, the 1940s?
Well, everybody was the same. There was nobody different. There was nobody that you thought were more well off than you, but wealth never ever came into it. Everybody was just getting on with it, and I suppose at that time you didn't realise you didn't have a lot. What you had, you thought everybody was in the same boat.
And did you have a lot?
Not really, no. My dad worked. He worked all his life.
What did he do?
He worked in what you call the borough, Coatbridge Borough, and he was a cleansing department employee, which meant he was on the bins, lifting the bins and brushing the streets and things like that. I don't remember my mum working. She was always at home, I think.
And how important do you think it is? How important do you think your parents are to your upbringing and the role models that they were?
I think it's a lot.
And how that impacted you as a person?
I think it's a lot. Because I was more softer than what my mum was. You know, she was heavy. To give you an idea, when I grew up, everything was a sin. You know, if you done wrong, it was your class, so that was a sin or things like that. But I always remember my dad, God rest him, and we'd maybe been round to Mass. And because I'm a Catholic and I was brought up that way, thank God, I've got a lot out of my faith.
No, you're treading on eggshells here, Gran. I'm only joking.
No, but when I used to get at my dad down the road and like that, I'd be taking his arm and I'd say to him silly things, like as a child thing now back. So-and-so was telling me that they'd done something wrong. And Dad, was that a sin? Do you think they'll go to hell? Because everything then was a sin if you'd done something wrong. And in your mind, if you'd done something you knew, you thought it was wrong. But when you look back now, what you'd done was nothing.
It was minor.
And my daddy would turn around and say to us automatically, right, don't be silly, of course they won't. That's not wrong. So I would sigh, a big sigh of relief, think, oh, that's me, I'm all right, I'm not going to go to hell.
And that sigh of relief, obviously a positive feeling. Do you think that's maybe why you lent into your dad more than maybe?
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
And out of the two?
But then I don't know how my mum really was brought up. I think she had a hard bringing up as well, and found it hard working in her age, her time. So that could have prompted her to be the way she was. Maybe she felt that she didn't get the help that she needed.
Do you think it was more difficult to be a woman back then?
Oh, very much so. Oh, very much so. I think so. But I think my mummy was very lucky finding the person that my dad was.
Why do you think it was more difficult to be a woman back then? Say back, what, 1930s, 40s?
Oh, I don't know. Well, did have the vote then and things like that, and a woman's place was in the house and the man's could do what he liked. He went out and worked, and if he handed in his wages, I'm only going with what you see now and you read now.
Yeah.
I think drink played a big part in a lot of people's lives then, you know, with men.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. It was an outlet for people, for men to go to the pub and meet up with people and get a drink and make them feel good, kind of thing. I don't think it was a good thing. in Scotland then, years and years ago.
Do you think it was because of lack of opportunity back?
Oh, absolutely.
There was maybe a vice?
Very much.
Escape from reality?
I think so. Absolutely. I think so.
Because that's the way, especially when I grew up, and I always find it very interesting, even you and I drawing similarities on our childhoods, even though they were years apart. And you'd said there about men back in the day, even in the 40s, going to the pub and escape from reality. And, you know, that's definitely as I was growing up as well. That was, you know, of course it starts off very innocent, but then, you know, if you don't know what you want in your life, and especially for young kids nowadays, people aren't sure what they want to do.
That's right.
Nowadays, kids stress themselves a lot about that. And, you know, they find themselves in escapism in the pub at the weekend, out partying till all hours. And, you know, you do that when you're young. But again, to that extent, you know, I definitely experienced that myself, where you were just doing it because you were escaping, because you didn't know where you wanted to be in your life.
I suppose so. But then I think it was harder as people, as now it's harder.
You think so?
Oh, very much so.
In what way?
Because they're expecting so much, or they want so much, and they want to be the same as everybody else. And there's a lot of pressure on them, and children now growing up, I think.
I think there's never been a better time to be alive. But I also, as you said, I think the expectation's higher. And I think when your expectation doesn't meet reality, it makes for a very disheartening life.
For yourself. But then, as I said, when I was growing up, I had nice friends, and and music was a big thing then. When I was growing up, I liked going to the cinema, and Doris Day was a great thing then. And this friend I had in particular, Sadie Beattie, and she was a great singer, and she used to actually think she was Doris Day.
Who was Doris Day? A famous singer back then?
Oh, no, she was an actress as well as a famous singer. As famous actress she was out at the same time as Rock Hudson, things like that, but it was all very innocent now when you look back on it.
And what would you have done at the weekend? What would you have done for fun when you were a kid?
Like at that age? To go to the pictures.
And what was it like? So you say you go to the cinema now, you go in,
right.
How is it different to back then? Or is it in any way?
Oh, it's a lot different nowadays, but I don't really go to the cinema now the way I used to, but that was a way of life, going to the cinema years ago.
But I could see...
And following pop stars we done then, it was like Tommy Steele, and as I say, Doris Day was out there. She was very, very popular, and things like that. Pat Boone.
Would you have been a singer back in the day?
Oh, I loved it. I loved
Were you singing?
Music, I think so. Because I always joined choirs and things like that, and we always went to concerts and things like that.
And so at what age then did you meet Papa? So
I met Papa very young.
So that was obviously my granda. So what age did you meet him?
About 17, I think. 17 I met your Papa.
And how did you meet? What was the story of how you met?
Oh, I know it sounds crazy, but I met him down the Glen.
What's the Glen?
It was in a farm kind of area, and there was a pond, not a big pond, and things like that. And on a Wednesday afternoon, Sadie worked in where did she work? In Cooper's. That was the name of the shop, was a grocer's. And it closed on a Wednesday afternoon. All the shops closed on a Wednesday afternoon then. So then the Wednesday, they did. And the Wednesday afternoon, I worked in a cooperative, so we closed on a Wednesday afternoon. And we'd meet up on a Wednesday, and we'd get sandwiches and cakes and tea biscuits and put them in bags and all that. And about sixes, Sadie's shop and me, we'd head down to the Glen, you called it. It's actually just across the road from where I stay just now. Not across the road, but across the main road and then onto it. I says, and your Papa was down there with his friends, pals.
Did you know of him at the time?
No, didn't know. But one of the girls that was with us knew him. She stayed in the same street as him. Anne Matheson, you call her. God, I don't know where she's dead or alive now. And she knew him. And your Papa was down with his friends, but they were having a kick about. They played football. They used to go down there to play football.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to know him then. And
so what do you remember the first interaction?
Oh, first interaction when I seen him, I knew him, so obviously she spoke to me when he came over and we were all speaking kind of thing. And he was a wee bit of a rough diamond, I think.
What does that mean? He was a bit hard?
Because he was swearing, you know, as if he was a big man.
Jack the lad.
Aye, that's it, Jack the lad. Well, I never heard swearing at home or anything like that. In the company I had, never ever came across it, and I thought, oh, flip. And then I don't know what, I don't know how, it must have been maybe at the dancing or something like that.
What was the dance? So I always see in old movies,
The pally.
you hear people going to the dance, and so what did that look like? How did that actually play out? Because in today's day and age, that just doesn't happen.
Oh,
So
it was brilliant.
what was that, and how did that? Like,
Well, it was a Wednesday night, and the group that played in it was called the Squads, right?
This is in the 50s now, would that have been?
And then we'd meet on a Wednesday night, and that was Squads played in Coatbridge on a Wednesday night, and we'd go up there on a Wednesday night, and you'd get a Coke. There was no drink or anything before they'd be drink.
Wild.
And we'd all go there and we'd go to the dance. But it was funny now when you look back, it was strange. Because at that time, when you were into the dance hall, the band was on, I can see it, the town hall, Coatbridge Town Hall it was held in, which is closed down now. And the girls stood on one side and the boys were on the other side.
What?
And you had to wait till they come over to ask you to dance. I know it was madness.
So I think it was maybe in Greece, or maybe it was in another movie, and it was from back in the 50s, and that's exactly what happened. And I was like, surely that never happened. So the girls would have had to sit there until the guy came over.
And you see them coming towards you, and if it came towards you and they weren't really that nice, or anything like that, oh, I hope he's not coming to ask me to dance. You know, he had your eye on somebody usually.
Could you ever reject them, or did you have to go up?
Oh no, if you didn't want to go up, you just said, I'm afraid I did. You say no, thanks.
And they had to make the lonely
walk along
back.
walk along and see if they get somebody else to go up with them. That's dreadful, isn't it?
That's wild.
Humiliating somebody like that.
So did Papa, did he walk over to you?
He walked over to me and asked me to come up and dance with him, and that was how it started, I think.
And do you remember that clearly?
Not really clearly, but we started going out together.
But you were 17 and what, he was?
Oh, he was about 18, because he was only about a year older than me, 2 years older than me.
And you were married how many years?
Oh, a long, long time. We married at 17 and a half, actually. Very young, we weren't long going together, and what actually happened, his father died. He went home, he used to bring me up to home, and then he'd go down to he stayed in Viewfield Road, number 7 Viewfield Road.
Which is, you're 13, so
right,
just
it was just along the road, and he stayed with his father, and he went home one night, and his father had TB and had been in and out of hospital with, and had always really kept bad health, but he'd been a minor, so that's probably how he got the TB.
Tuberculosis, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he went home and he found his father dead. But his next door neighbours had heard him come in, and she came in, Mrs. Cowell, and she said she'd been in earlier on in the night, in the evening, and made him a cup of tea. But he was fine. So Papa left the house that night after finding his dad and walked it up the street, right, because there were no buses or anything at that time, it was too late. Walked it up the street to the police station to report it. And then he met me the next day when I was going out. I was going to work, and I used to get the bus from Coatbridge to Airdrie, and he met me at the bus stop to tell me that he'd found his father dead.
Wow. That must have been difficult at that age for anyone finding anybody. You know, I suppose it'd be something difficult to get over. I think it would be, anyway, especially at that age. And then you got married pretty soon after.
Aye, but the reason we really get married so quickly now, when I look back now, was because your dad, Papa, stayed with his dad. When his dad died at that time in Coatbridge, you got the house. Whoever was left in the house got the house. So he had the house, and it was furnished and etc. Different things, everything was in it in place. And yet Papa was taking instructions to become a Catholic with her father Lillis up at St Patrick's, because he had been a Protestant, and I was Catholic, obviously. And he was taking instructions, and Father Lillis got on very well with him. And he was an older Irish priest, right? But see if you'd have heard him speaking in the altar, maybe on a Sunday, but he was in St Patrick's, I was in St Mary's. I never heard him. You would never have went near him, because he was fire and brimstone.
What's that, man?
Very heavy with his sermons.
Right, okay.
You know, to behave yourself and this and that and sin and all this.
And back then as well, it would have been very...
Oh, aye, you took it in as God-given.
But very frowned upon for, say, someone to transition from
absolutely.
Protestant to Catholic, or even marry a Catholic.
That's right. So he had said more or less, like, he was giving your Papa instructions, and then it was circumstances. And he says, why don't you get married? And I remember clearly saying to him, married? And I says, my mummy would kill me if I made that. And like that, he said, you don't know. So I remember going home and I did say to him.
What did you say? What was it? What did the conversation go like?
I can't remember. I must have said to her, would it be okay if I got married? Could I get married to Matt? How I had the courage to do it, I don't know.
Yeah, that's big. That's big.
I don't know. But anyway, she said yes. I mean, you would think it'd be your father you'd ask, wouldn't you? Not your mother. But she was the boss.
Oh,
she was the boss woman. So she said yes. And I remember years and years later, when you, like everybody's life, you have your ups and downs with your family and all that. And I remember saying to her, why did you give me permission to get married? She says, because you just went away and get married. But I would never have done that.
Would you not?
Oh no, I was too frightened to do that. I would never have done
Did people do that back then?
I'd never heard any, but I took it that's what they would do. They'd run away, get married. I don't think so. But I wouldn't have done it. But anyway, that was it. But,
so how many years were you married then in total?
Oh, well, it was like 50 odd years.
And you see a lot of relationships in today's day and age, they don't last. They're very fleeting. You see a lot of affairs and, marriages, divorce. What do you think was different about marriage back then and about relationships back then?
I think they were very easily pleased and we didn't look for a lot. And I think nowadays it's people are looking for too much, are expecting too much.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know what it is. I think it's the times we're living in nowadays. I think there's an awful lot of pressure on the young ones nowadays, and even young couples as well, compared to years ago. Because you stuck through marriage, through thick and thin. You had your good days, your bad days, your good weeks, your bad weeks. And money was scarce, but we had a house and it was furnished and your papa was working and things like that. Do you know what I mean? But people now are working, well, they're trying to get a house, get a roof over their head, and it's so difficult nowadays. You'll pay for a house, etc. And I don't think there's the same help then. And we didn't expect a lot then. Do you know what I mean?
It's your expectation, it defines a lot. It dictates a lot. And do you think, because there's so many options available today, I suppose back then in Coatbridge, you didn't have social media back then. You didn't know many people from the next town or even the next county, let alone in the world. Whereas in today's day and age, you log on to Instagram and you can see people in Australia and in England, in Scotland, anywhere. And in my opinion, I personally believe that when people are in a relationship and things get tough, they just look for the next option. They've so many options available and they look for the next option instead of, as you said, when things are difficult, that's when you have to double down and work on the relationship and communicate. And that's definitely something where a flaw of my relationship previously, as in with Tia, the one I'm in currently, and beforehand, we just didn't communicate properly. And again, I think young people were still learning. You still learn too, and even as you're getting older, you're still learning how to do life and how to do relationships and how to communicate. And that was something that I had to learn. I had to learn to be able to communicate my desires, my boundaries, what I wanted, what I didn't want, and vice versa. And it's a realization to me that when something's important to you, you double down and work on it. And as you said, like through thick and thin, as opposed to saying, oh, this is difficult.
The first hurdle you come in, I'm out here. That's it.
Because how does that set you up for the relationships?
That's right, I know.
Because I don't know anyone that's had a relationship or a marriage that it's been plain sailing the entire time.
Of course it can't be. Life's not like that.
Would you say you had a happy marriage?
I would think so, yeah. Because you didn't expect a lot and you didn't look, you really didn't. I mean, your papa was a good man. I can't say that anything at all about him. He was a good man. He worked, provided, and brought his wages in and things like that. And he didn't expect very much. But he liked his Friday night out with your Uncle Jimmy.
Yeah.
And that was all he worried about, was more or less having enough pocket money to go and meet Uncle Jimmy and go to Carson's and have a crack.
Ended up in the graveyard in the walk home. Tell that story. The one when he was walking back.
What was that again now?
So remember when he walked and he fell into the graveyard?
Of all that, I can't remember.
So he was walking home. Papa was on a night out.
Did he tell you? He must have told you about it then, didn't he?
Him and one of his Jimmy had said as well.
Jimmy Mitchell.
So Papa one night after a night out. So Gran lives on Viewfield Road, and on Viewfield Road there's a
just off Viewfield Road, the graveyard.
Yeah, just off Viewfield Road there's a graveyard.
At the end of the road.
And on the way home, instead of taking the longer route, they took a shortcut through the graveyard, but one of the graves had been dug. And
the corpse
the next day, to put the corpse in the next day, and it was pitch black, dark. It was pitch black. They were walking home and they were walking through the graveyard, and he tripped and fell right into the grave. And what must have been 6 feet?
Oh, easy.
6 feet deep.
I would think so.
And they got out okay, did they? Yeah, they got out.
But luckily there wasn't another coffin in it.
I know, can you imagine? Yeah.
Could you call yourself?
Passing out and snoozing with the dead. And what would you say was your happiest memory in the marriage?
And the happiest memory? I think I had a lot of happy memories. I think since the kids came, Matthew was born.
What year?
That was a big thing.
What year was Matthew born?
He was born in 1960.
Right, okay.
He was 16, I think he was born in 1960.
And how many kids? Was it 5?
Ina was born in 1963, I remember that. And that was a big thing. And I remember one time in particular, which was a really nice time. I remember it clearly. Matthew got his first bike, a trike, 3-wheeler. And it was a shop up in Coatbridge up the town. And Matt brought it down, and Matthew came up and down in the trike outside, and your dad all chuffed because he got this bike from Papa, all chuffed. And the neighbours, Mrs. Glenn, God rest her, coming out and talking to him and saying, "Oh, it's great, Matthew," and things like that. And he was as happy as Larry. No, I think it was easy. It was so much easier when you think of it. You don't realise how easy it was and how lucky you were.
And if you had to go back and give advice to that 17-year-old Kitty back then, and she was sitting in this room, what would you say to her?
What would I say? I don't think to get married at 17 was a good idea. Really? No, 17 and a half. I used to always put that half in. Far too young. I mean, you've got to live your life and experience life. Nowadays, I think to settle down and get married and have a family. But then there's an innocence in that as well, which makes it much easier and much happier. Do you know, doing that at that age? You know, because you weren't expecting that much. But life just works out. It works out. And if you take it as it comes, and that's it. And plus as well, having family behind you, because my mammy, for all she was hard on me, she was a good granny. She was hard because right was right and wrong was wrong.
Yeah.
She had the principles kind of thing. But she was always very good with my kids growing up, looking after them and let me out to work and things like that. And Morrig and Mary as well, my sisters, they were excellent with them. And my daddy, he was wonderful as well. But he was just such a nice. And you know, one of my happiest memories is my daddy. I've got my daddy. My daddy always knelt down every night, said his night prayers at the bed every night. And what I've got my memories of my daddy is kneeling at his bedside, saying his prayers. But he used to put his hands on his face, and he always had a kind of, what would you call it?
Stubble.
A stubble, right? And you could hear his hands going up and down his face. And I've still got that memory of my dad.
No way.
From a child. And that was him on his knees saying his prayers before he went into bed.
And it was a good memory.
Oh God, it's a wonderful memory. That way. Aye.
And what would you say was one of the toughest moments?
Toughest moments
that you've had in your life?
Do you know what the thing is? It's funny, Daniel, you don't think about the tough moments. I don't think, well, I've never thought about the tough moments. I don't dwell on tough moments. What is a tough moment? A tough moment is how you feel. Everybody's tough moment will be different. Do you know what I mean? Hard moments are hard, but what are hard moments? Is it having enough money, enough wages to put the week in? Is it making sure Matt your dad, Papa wanted to go to Australia because he was quite good at football, and there was a team in Australia wanted to sponsor him and take him out there. And we went for medicals and everything to go. And the next door neighbours were Betty and Bill. And he was a metallurgist with British Steel. And we was talking about Australia. And they must have got the idea of it. But anyway, I met an old neighbour from Barrafield Street from the Wiffler when I was up at my mummy's one time. And she said, and it was only, Matthew was only a child, a baby at the time. It was only Raina ran Matthew. And she says, that Wayne will never see his papa again, going to Australia. But I mean, it was the other end of the world then. Do you know what I mean?
Back then it was.
It was.
Now it's one day of travelling.
And I thought, I ain't going. So that's it. It was cut short. And I thought, I'm not going.
So he was going over to Australia to play football professionally?
Professionally, aye. I've got the letters to this day in the house, aye.
Think of how different life would have been.
But there's one thing about it, I don't regret it, but the thing about it is, see the neighbours next door, Betty and Bill, do you know they went to Australia?
Did they?
They went, really.
I didn't know that. Are they still alive?
Well, I don't know. That I haven't been in contact with them for years and years and years. Betty started a business. She was very good with her hands at sewing and things like that and knitting. And I think she started a wee business over there. But I remember her sending letters and cards 6 weeks on the boat, going there.
6 weeks on the boat? That's mad. 24 hours today's day. 6 weeks in the boat. And it's mad to think how, just because of that decision, that one decision, how different your life would be. And, you know, the choices that we make day to day, they are so important. They do define our life. But I feel like a lot of people they overly stress about those decisions as well. Whereas sometimes I think that's a beautiful thing of life, not to have everything planned, not to put so much emphasis on every single decision, because as you said, like, life does just work out.
It does.
And
there's one thing about it, I don't regret it. I've no regrets about not going.
Do you believe in fate?
Fate, things happen. I think it could be true. It could be something in it. Life works out the way you've never planned it for different reasons. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I was maybe meant to meet Mrs. McGrotty that day for her to say that, for us not to go. And I don't remember your papa ever saying, you stopped me going. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have any regrets, I don't think. Because he carried on here playing football. He played from high up kind of thing in junior teams. But no, he never was the type that looked for regrets or looked for much out of life. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I always say your perspective is your power or your prison. What you choose to focus on, you feel. So you can choose to focus on the regrets, or you can choose to look at the silver lining and choose to look at the opportunity that's came your way off the back of that. Like, what's good is available, but what's bad and what's negative is also available, and it's really what you decide you want to choose. And you know, I think I've got a lot of that from you as well. The fact that you're not a negative individual, and subjectively speaking, you've had a lot of hard times in your life from an outside perspective, like going through having lost Matthew, Gary, Patrick, 3 of your sons, and obviously both sisters, Papa. Like you've had a lot of hardship in your life, but yet you always seem to look at the brighter side. You always seem to be able to reframe it, and that's something which I try and do and take into my own life, and that's something which I've been inspired by you.
It's nice to hear. But I think you've got to think like that, because if you've still got your life, you've got your life, so you've got to carry on, and you've got to try and be an example to people, especially to young ones. Because I think it's out, but then life works out strange, and it works out the way it works out for a reason, and you've no control over that.
I know people love the idea of life being preordained, and we don't, you know, our life's already decided for us, and I think there's a romance to that, but I also like to feel like I have full agency and control of my life as well. Like I want to feel like I have control over the outcome. You know, I don't like to feel like all the decisions are already laid out in front of you. So I when it comes to relationships and certain aspects of my life, I do like the idea of fate, and I think it's, you know, it can be very romantic, but I also like to feel like I have control over my life and my decisions as well. And obviously you'd say there, what is a tough moment? You didn't really have a tough moment. What would you say what was one of the greatest lessons that you've maybe learned then? If you wouldn't have said it was a directly tough moment, what would you say has been one of the greatest lessons that you've learned? Or some of the greatest lessons? If you had 3 lessons that you've learned through doing
For
life.
me personally, I would say my faith.
Talk to me about that. In what way?
And believing in the help of God and the help of Our Lady and prayer. And just trying to think there is a lot of good people about there that'll help you if you're in trouble, to go to them and speak things over with, and not to ever feel you're out on your own. You know, there is people round about you. If you embrace people, or you try to, what you give, you'll get back. I believe in that, a lot in that.
And in karma.
I think you get that back.
And what do you think your life would look like if you didn't have faith in it?
Oh God, you'd have been well under. You wouldn't be here today. Because you'd be blaming and saying, why is this happening to me? Why did God send this to me? Why has this happened? Why is it only me? And you'd be asking questions all the time, how and why, and feel sorry for yourself. And you can't go on with your life if you feel like that, negative. You've got to think, well, they're gone, but I'm sure they're meeting up, and I'm sure they're happy, and I'm sure in the life they did have here they were happy in their own way, and they contributed to life. But I think you've got to have a mindset that more or less like that, things do happen for a reason, and you've just got to go and make the most of it. And if you know within your own heart you didn't do any wrong to them and you helped them as much as you could, you don't have any regrets. And all you can do, all I think I can do is I just pray to them and I talk to them.
There's a dwindling number of religious people when it comes to the youth in the West. Do you think that's a big reason why people are struggling with their mental health in today's day and age, because they don't have faith?
Oh, I think they've lost it. I think they've lost.
Do you think there's a correlation there between them?
I think so. I think people have lost hope, have lost contact with God, and asking for just saying a wee prayer now and again.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there has been lost contact with religion for the youth? Because the way I see it, growing up in today's day and age, it's not as ever present as I imagine what it used to be. You know, like mum growing up was a big thing. Everyone was going to mass, and you know, we were like that when we were growing up too. And then it got to a certain age where we could decide what we wanted to do, and you know, we didn't want to continue on with that. And you know, I might find that down the line in my life where I might come back to that. Absolutely, and because I see what that gives you, and I see what that gives other people.
Well, I used to always say that your papa was more an example in life than I was, because he didn't like talking about anybody or miscalling anybody or anything like that. And if I maybe had an off day and I was saying this or saying that, he'd say, right, Kitty, that's enough. Just calm down, cool it.
I remember he always used to, when Jared or Connor, or Jared and I were always fighting, and he says, right, that's enough, I'm off. Because we always just, when we were growing up, it's a really fond memory. Like, so someone actually asked me the question,
right,
when I was in Wim Hof. They asked me think about a really happy childhood memory, and I want you to sit there and think about it and play it out in your head. And I closed my eyes, and you know, the first thing that came to my head is back in our old house in Knightswood, out the front playing football on the tarmac with Papa and with Jared, and hitting the ball against the gate, and then playing keep ball with the three of us. And that was a really happy memory. You know, always playing football. And you know, when I left primary school, when I finished primary school, you always walking up and giving us wine gums. And like, that was a really, like, they were really happy. And you always used to say every single day, right, marks out of 10 for your day, as in how was it? How was your day out of 10? And I always say, Gran, it's the same every day. It's the same every day.
Is that 10?
Yeah, but we always
it 2?
I know. Yeah, it was probably, in primary school it was probably like a 10. I loved it. But those were really, really fond memories. You know, Papa was a incredible man.
And there's simple memories. You know, there's not a lot of, you know, it's just simple. It's just way of life and somebody's impression on you.
There's a lot to be said for simplicity.
Oh, fine.
And again, as you said, the expectation. And I think that's why, you know, if you had to ask me, well, why do I believe the youth of today struggle so much? You know, I would say a big part of that is their expectation, as you'd said, because you go on the Instagram and you automatically you log on Instagram and you see a 21-year-old with a Lamborghini and £1 million in the bank living in the Maldives, and years gone by, you might have been in good shape, you might have been a good footballer, you might have been academic, and in your age group, in your town, in your village, you would have been quite high up in the social hierarchy because you know you were a good footballer, your ability, you maybe were quite funny. So you probably had quite a lot of confidence in yourself. Whereas today, in today's day and age, you might have all of those attributes, but as soon as you go onto Instagram, you're seeing someone who's your age, absolutely jacked with muscle, driving about a Porsche in Dubai, running their own business, and you might think, oh, well,
how has he done that?
Yeah, how's he done that? And, you know, how's he there and I'm only here? And automatically
you think you've achieved nothing.
Yeah, you went from being up here in the social hierarchy to down here. And of course, we only want to compare to ourselves, but as humans, I think it's natural to compare to other people. And
the way I look at it, that's all material.
Absolutely.
Material, and that's what you're looking at.
But the youth,
they've gained materially. It's no big deal. I think it's wonderful for somebody to have a Porsche or have that. Because I feel, thank God I'm in the position, not the position, I've got the nature to be happy for the person that's in that position, rather than be negative about it and say, why have I not got that? So that you're better just rejoicing with them that I've got that. And if you want to achieve that, you just still keep working as hard as you're working and you will achieve it.
And what advice would you give to someone that struggles with that struggles with comparing themselves to other people? Because I know that's shifted for me in the past couple of years, and I see it as inspiration now. I see it as something like, oh my gosh, that's incredible, I can do that too. But previously being like, oh, I'm not there, like I need, and your self-worth was dwindling as a result of that. So what would you say to people in today's day and age that maybe do struggle with their self-worth when they go onto social media and they see somebody living the high life and they're not?
Personally, I would say, and I know it sounds negative and this doesn't sound very good, I would switch off. I wouldn't go on their lines online to look at them.
Unfollow them then?
No, definitely wouldn't, because it's not helping you, it's not doing anything for you. Find something that you like or you enjoy or you're not jealous of or things like that until you feel strong enough to look at that. But I would say, no, enough's enough. Good luck to them. End of story.
I think that's great advice, that if you're not in that position where you can take inspiration, take a break from it until a time where you can.
Your own time, your own achievements will come.
And
you'll feel fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what advice would you give to young people, full stop, of today's day and age? Like, say for example, say you were broadcasted on TV, on Sky News tomorrow, and you had to give one message out to the youth of today, knowing what you know about life and what you've gone through and the experiences that you've had, what would Kitty Thompson say to the youth of today?
I would say not to give up and to believe that things will get better, because they will get better. If you keep dreaming and just saying, no, I'm good, I'll get there, things will work out for me. Just believe in yourself and just don't think negative that everybody's better than you, because they're not. They start off the same way, and that's it. Your time will come if you keep persevering. But be happy in your day, you know, that you're still alive, you're still able to make decisions and do things, or else work harder. You know what you have to achieve or you want to achieve, and you know what way you can do that. Well, go for it. And think positive. I'll achieve that, I'll do this, or I won't do that. But try and be happy in what you have achieved so far up to that limit. Be content, try and be content and say, well, I've done this or I've done that. I've done okay, I'm still here, I'm still able to make decisions. And go for the good things that you've achieved in your life and think about them. Don't bring yourself down to the negative things of what you think you failed in. You maybe think you failed in it, and somebody else might think that's nothing wrong in that. What you done is you failed, okay, but you'll pick yourself up again. You know, don't batter yourself up.
I love that. And there was this mountain explorer from Wales that went on this expedition. And I seen him talking in a podcast about this. He went on an expedition. He was the first man to ever walk the full length of Mongolia unsupported. So he had this 120 kilo trailer on the back of him. His name was Ash Dykes. And somewhere along the journey, he really struggled. He didn't have much water. He didn't have much food left. He was suffering from heat stroke, which can be fatal. And he thought he was going to die. And in the distance, he could see these white felt tents. And he got closer and closer. And he said it took him about 24 hours to get there because of how exhausted he was. And when he finally got there, they looked after him. They fed him.
So he wasn't surmising this. There definitely was people there in these tents.
There was people there, and there were locals.
Right.
They fed him. They watered him. And at the end, when he recovered after 7 days to continue on the journey, he went to give them money. And they refused. They said, we don't need your money. We're rich. But not in the way that you are. We're rich in life.
See, I think that's wonderful.
We've got all of this land. We've got a family. We've got our health. We're the rich ones here. We don't need your money. And he went on his way and completed the expedition.
But that must have been a lesson to him.
It absolutely was. And I think it's a great lesson to anybody. And, you know, I think the biggest thing for me and how I've shifted my mindset the past couple of years has actually just been to be grateful for what I have. And I know that could be such a off the cuff, being like, I think as soon as people hear the word grateful or gratitude, they think, oh my gosh, shut up. It's very wishy-washy. But I want to ask you, so I want to ask you the question. Let's try this. Name me 3 things that you're grateful for today. And if you're listening on or you're watching on, I want you to do this as well. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to really think about this. So close your eyes. What is 3 things that you're truly grateful for today?
Truly grateful for.
And do one at a time.
I think being born with the nature I've got. I'm really grateful for that.
And put yourself into that as well.
Well, if I put myself into it, I'm happy with what I have got and what I've achieved. Not that I feel I've achieved much, but I'm really happy in my own way because I'm so thrilled with the 3 grandchildren I've got because yous are fantastic. And what a blessing that is. And it is a blessing every day. Plus as well, the mother you've got and the father you've got. And your mother's my daughter. So something must have came from me to her for her to reuse the ways I've been reared. I'm not saying that to boast myself up. But she's a wonderful person too, and so is Jerry, your dad. Rena, I couldn't have got by without Rena. And she's entirely different natured from your mum. But she's so powerful and so strong. And you can rely on her about everything. But also I'm so pleased I know it sounds crazy that I've got the nature that and I'm glad I'm a people person because I love people and I love talking to them. I love hearing their stories and things like that. And I didn't realise I had such an impression of people until I had my accident. And then when I meet people now, after being isolated for a couple of months through it, and then meeting them as like maybe going to church and people you never spoke to before coming up and shaking your hand and giving you a hug and it's lovely to see you, Kitty, oh that's great, and people that you thought didn't know you. So you must have left an impression of some sort.
That must have made you feel good.
Aye. And I feel good for them that they can come forward to me, you know, and speak to me like that.
Testament to you as a person, you know, like you're an incredible person.
Oh, I don't say I'm incredible, but I think because I'm easy-ozy. I've got a nature that makes me very easy approach, I think.
But the fact that you don't realise it is what makes it so beautiful as well. The fact that you don't realise the impact that you have, and the fact that you've only seen that recently. You know, like if you'd asked me straight off the bat, who's one person that, you know, is the most positive person that you know in your life, it's you straight off the bat. I don't even need to think about that.
Well, see, that's wonderful for me to hear that.
But again, a lot of people ask, well, why are you so positive? And, you know, I get that a lot from you growing up.
Right.
Growing up, I don't even remember one memory that comes to mind of you being like a complainer, negative. I don't remember once. Every memory I have of you is, you know, even in some of the really dark times, you know, when say people, you know, when Matthew or Patrick passed away, or maybe Papa, you know, you were still in good spirits. Even you might not have been on the inside, but you still showed that. Like, that's a net positive for the world, you know, and you know, I think that's what an incredible legacy that is. And that's something which I wish, like, I hope down the line that I can be sitting in your position and I can say that I've left that as a legacy, you know, where I can have an impact on other people like that. So so you've said there obviously about your about your family, about your nature. It's very difficult to be grateful and be angry at the same time. Would that be fair to say?
I don't think you can be both at the same time.
So I think
you can either be grateful or be happy, and be negative and angry.
And what a great lesson, though. Why, if we want our life to be better, and then why not try and practice being grateful more often then?
But I think you've got to look on the bright side, and you've got to remember there was good times, and remember the good times.
Yeah.
And when you were happy, look for it. If you're finding it hard to be like that. But I think, honestly, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think sometimes you're born with the nature you've got.
Do you think that can be fostered?
In what way? Passed on?
No. Do you think that
can watch on?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. Oh, because I think people learn from other people. Aye, because you can look at somebody and say, God, I'd love to be like them, and then you pick wee bits about them, how they are.
You know, I was a really negative person, maybe not growing up
as
a kid, but maybe when I was about 17, 18, like, it was just probably not a nice person to be around. And I just wasn't grateful as well for what I had and the life that I lived. And, you know, now obviously I still live in the same house, you know, as like I always talk about you and talk about Rena, the mum and dad, the impact that they've had on me, the role models. Like, I couldn't ask for better role models. You know, with Jared, with Connor, the sun still rises in the morning. I'm more grateful for it now. I still have a coffee each day. I had it back then, but I really appreciate it now. And every sip, I'm like, oh, that's good. But it's how
the first cup of tea in the morning.
Yeah, unbelievable. But it's how you frame it. Because back in the day, I would have thought, no, and I need to have expensive trainers. I need to be in Dubai. I need to have, and you know, I've been to Dubai. I always say I've been to Dubai. I've been in the Maldives, and you know, I've never been more grateful than when I'm actually back home in Ireland. Things that I've had for so long, and I like for many years, back when I was maybe 18 or 19, I thought Northern Ireland, it's such a small thinking country. You know, it's the people, it's small minded. I need to get out. It's the country, it's not me. And then what I came to realize was it's actually not. Northern Ireland's an incredible place. It was me, and that, you know, I wasn't grateful for what you were getting and
what they were getting out of it.
And I think that is a lesson, and I'm a big believer of that now, that you can change and you can become a more positive individual, but you need to consciously practice that. Ask yourself every day, what am I actually grateful for in my life?
Because people question you and think about why you're not like this, or why do you not feel like this, and you feel sometimes you have to fight against a lot of people, because a lot of people are negative in their own way. Or else you don't surround yourself with negative people. Pick the right people to be around.
Yeah.
Or have on your side. Not on your side, but can the same wavelength. Because there is a lot of sad people out there that don't see life as good.
I think it's important to have a good role model off the back of it.
Right.
And if you don't have that role model, because I understand that, like, I'm in a very privileged position to have great role models.
Right.
And I understand that not everybody gets that opportunity.
Right.
Not everybody has that privilege. And, you know, I constantly try and remind myself of that that's something that you should be grateful for.
Right.
And from my perspective, if I didn't have that, if I didn't have those role models, okay, let's call it an anti-role model. Let's look at somebody's life that maybe we don't want to be. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, and saying, okay, I'm just going to do everything they're not doing. I think you can get to a really great place within yourself and become successful by just avoiding mistakes, just avoiding what they're doing.
Absolutely.
You know, if it's someone that's maybe overweight or they're drinking all the time and, you know, they're not happy in themselves, it's okay, I'm looking at what they're doing and I don't want to be like that. So I'm going to go this way. And I think if we don't have the luxury of a role model, let's look at who we don't want to be and avoid that. And then we can become our own role model.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Did you have a role model growing up?
Growing up, a role model? Not really. I don't think about anybody that I thought about I'd like to be like. I don't think. I think because I was happy in my own life, or happy in my own self, in a simple way, I just took life as it came. I think sometimes you're better, as long as you're not looking for too much to begin with. Do you know what I mean? And being happy with what you have. Or if it's not enough for you, well, working to achieve what you want, but not blaming other people for what you haven't got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. That's, I think when you start to point I always say, who you point the finger to, you give the power to. So when you start to blame him or her or anybody, you know, you take the power away from yourself to be able to change.
Because it's you yourself that can do things. It's you that can change things. It's you can pick the friends that you want to have.
Did you feel that growing up that you had control of your life?
Not really, because you didn't really go into anything in great depth or anything like that, no. I just think I had the nature I had. And I think that brought me through a lot. Do you know, having the nature and dreaming? Yeah. I know it sounds crazy, but dreaming.
What did you dream of?
Of going to Hollywood and being a film star, I think.
Did you? Did you? No way.
I've been a singer and, oh God, silly things. I remember I had when I was born in the cooperative, I got this girl, she was Miss, you call her. You always called them, the ladies in the cooperative were called Miss Pearman or Miss Clark or Miss that. That's how they were taught, that's how you spoke to them. And she gave me an address, and it was a friend she had in America. Baltimore, sorry, God, after that disaster, I was thinking about it in the news too. Yeah. And it was this guy, and it was Lloyd Holmes, she called him.
Right, okay.
And she gave me this address, and he wanted a pen pal. And if I would write to him, and I wrote to him, and can't remember, probably a lot of rubbish I wrote. But I wrote to him, and I must have been about 15, 16. Yeah. But he wanted a photograph of me. Well, I never ever thought I was anything to look at or beautiful or anything like that. I never had that about.
Why did you think that?
I don't know why. Probably because I was never told that. You know, you look lovely or you look nice and that thing. No, I never had that feeling. That
well, you do look lovely.
Well, if I look now and I think to myself, well, you're not bad, Kitty, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for how I am and how I've come through the world. But I remember, what you know what I done? That sounds crazy. But I sent a photograph of, guess who?
Doris Day?
No,
Who?
Sadie Beattie.
Did you?
Sadie Beattie, my best friend. Because I always thought she was beautiful. Do you know
There's something funny, but something quite sad about that too.
It's terrible. It's ridiculous.
No, I just think like...
it's sad. It's terrible. It's ridiculous.
But looking back, I'm like... Yeah, the fact that you thought that, you know, you're not pretty enough to be able to send a photo of yourself.
I don't remember anybody ever tell me I was pretty or looked nice or anything like that as a youngster. I don't remember any compliments ever coming, but it must have left an impression. And Sadie, I always just thought she had a great personality. And I just remember with the hairbrush up at her mouth, that was her mic, singing. Do you know what I mean? And she always went and got her hair cut, and she used to tell the girl to cut it like Doris Day, something she used to get. So I sent a photograph of Sadie to Lloyd, so he still thinks Doris Day.
Did he never get back?
Well, I used to write, but I stopped writing. I don't know why, but I must have stopped writing out the blue. And I remember him sending me a beautiful big book, and I thought I could find it near my mummy's years later, but I've never came across it. And it was all about America. Do you know what I mean? Photographs of Washington, New York and things like that. And I just had this thing about New York and America. I thought it was wonderful reading about it or hearing about it. And but that was a wee story as well. So Sydney's over
I never knew that.
Baltimore. Did you know?
There's someone out there that still think,
send his photographs away to them, kind of thing. And
she's still alive?
I don't know, but the last time I heard that she was in a home and she'd Alzheimer's.
Oh God!
So,
how does it feel when you're going through life and you have friends that are no longer with you, that are passing away? How does that feel? Because I mean, I obviously I look around, you know, my friends today, and someone actually asked me this question, like, what do you think it's going to be like when we're older and people are just dropping off, and one day you're going to be someone in our friend group is going to be the last one?
I don't think personally you can think like that.
Do you,
absolutely. I don't think like that.
I don't think like that. No. Someone asked me the question and I was just like, that's not how I like to think.
No, I wouldn't think like that, because I have a lot of good friends like Edith Collin. Now Edith's dead, God rest her, and her friend, who was her best friend at school, plus as well she worked for your dad as well. June Monroe, she's dead as well, and we were all friendly.
And these were all from the chicken factory?
Edith was in the chicken factory.
So
June wasn't. But June and Edith were best pals from school.
Yeah.
But then I became friends with Edith and then got to know June. And June and her were lovely. And I know there's quite a few of them away now, but I don't think about anything negative about them. When I'm thinking about them, I'm thinking about the times we had together.
Yeah.
And how we got on and what we done, stupid things, silly
memories,
things. Aye, happy memories.
I think that's class, the fact, like, you're looking back at those people and it's only good memories that's coming. So I think that's, we should really strive to make as many happy memories as possible. I always take it with the stance of what's going to be a good memory looking back, what's going to be a good story. And that's a big reason why that I went to Bali in November, that I booked on I'm going to Texas tomorrow, obviously, as you know. I want to look back when I'm older and have loads of crazy stories. That's why I booked the Wim Hof. I want to have stories
to tell me if you have a family or friends and all that. Of course, what an experience you've had so far. You're only away, still highs, kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. I think honestly, it's definitely probably the best education that anybody can get.
Right.
Life education is actually just seeing the world as well. And I know you've seen a lot of the world too, but you can still be grateful for Ireland and the country you live in, but want to travel.
Right. But it's a good thing as well. I think I've got a personality as well, which maybe it's not to some people, but I don't put people up there above me. I admire people that have achieved a lot and got a lot and things like that, but I never think anybody's above me. If I meet somebody and they're famous because of some reason, I'm chuffed to bits because I've met them and seen them, kind of thing.
So who would you like to meet? If you had one person, I know nobody's above, but is there one person where you think, I'd love to meet them? Just to say you've met them.
Oh God, I don't know. I've met quite a few people. I remember going to New York with Catherine and all of them. There was about 5 or 6 who was going to New York, and Kennedy Dalglish was in the airport. And we were all waiting, and he was sitting, and Catherine said to me like that, "They're Kennedy Dalglish there." And I went, "Where?" She went, "Oh, so it is." I says, and me being the nature I can't sit and not say anything.
Gran's the type of person that when she goes to the airport, you always meet a friend. You always make a friend.
Amazing.
You always do. You're like, who do you meet today? So say you have a dinner party, and you get to invite.
Who would I like to go?
You get to invite 5 people.
Who would I invite?
Yeah, 5
God,
people.
That's so hard.
Or you can go 3 if you want.
And go myself to them, the famous people.
Yeah. So
I know, famous people, I haven't got them up there, but I can admire them.
But if you had to choose.
Who would I choose? Do you know what the thing is? That's a difficult one.
What about the Obamas? You love the Obamas?
Oh, I love him. Barack Obama. Yeah, the both of them are.
Both of them? They're taking up 2 out of 3 seats.
No, I think, honest to God, I think she's wonderful, her.
Yeah.
She made him. Yeah. Now, he worked hard for how far he got, but she made him. I've read his book, his autobiography and things. I've read a couple of books about them. But no, they're wonderful people.
Were you the Michelle Obama in the relationship?
And no, I think he achieved so much.
Yeah, for sure. You can see she's a driving force. She's the backbone. Like, you know, she just seems such a strong character.
Oh, really. But the thing is that they're so in love with one another and they're so into one another. There's support for one another. Do you know what I mean? They're not negative about anything, any part of them.
I'm still
God, I can imagine me meeting them.
We're still right. I know you can say you'd be buzzing to meet them.
I'd be what?
You'd be excited to meet.
Oh God, I wouldn't have.
Right, you've one more person.
One more person.
Is that 2 out of 3?
Oh, for goodness sake, for real.
It could be anyone, sports, actor, singer. It could be, and they could be dead or alive as well.
Oh, dead.
We can bring people back. Yeah. But it can't be someone in your family or friends.
Right.
So
somebody is dead.
no, or alive.
Or
They don't have to be dead.
Right. I'm trying to think. Maybe that's a hard one. Oh, to carry on quote, I don't need to think. Come along.
You can come back to.
Come back. But these two, they'd be excellent because I think they're role models for a lot of people. You might not agree with their principles or what their outlook is in life, but they're not bad people. And they came and they pulled themselves up and they worked from nothing.
Great role model.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and when it comes to disagreeing with people and their message, what's your thoughts on Andrew Tate?
Oh, you've asked me the wrong question now, Andrew Tate. No. I heard Jerry talking about him. He was the first person I heard talking about him, and then I seen him getting interviewed by Piers Morgan, and he was very good to begin with about his early life and things like that. And he was a chess champion as well.
Grandmaster chess champion.
And he had achieved a lot in that, but there was just something iffy about him. I don't know what.
What was it?
He looked an angry person 24/7 when you were watching him.
Yeah.
There was no smiley face or smile at any time. Yeah. It was just, look at this world. This world's done this, but I'm going to change it. But not in a nice way, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I've came to the position, I'm thinking now, reading about him, and I know it's said, well, you can't believe everything you read. But no, I don't think he's a nice person.
And again, in today's day and age, especially the past couple of years, you know, that's been a big topic of conversation. And, you know, he was one of the most Googled men of, I think it was maybe 2020 or 2023, I think,
right.
Or maybe 2022. And, you know, a lot of young boys would come up to me and say in the gym or on Instagram, they would message me and say, they've been inspired by him to maybe start the gym or to start a business. But obviously, as well, there's been so many things that he said, which, you know, it's been a negative. Which, when it comes to his stance on women, his stance on maybe his politics, or his view in the world, you know, there's so much that I disagree with. When it comes to, like, if I look at his approach and his advice when it comes to training in the gym and working on yourself as a man to get stronger, I rate that. I love that, because I think it's young boys should be training and should be working on themselves to improve their confidence. And I think that's a great message, but that gets tainted and brushed over by everything else that he said. And I think some people, I'd say there's a lot of people probably in the world that maybe have views, questionable views, but some things you don't say aloud, you know. And there's some things, some views, there's a lot of views which he would share, which, you know, in the onset, I agreed with a lot of what he said. And, you know, as time's gone on, I think he's just saying things to get clicks. I think he's saying things to be controversial, and it's getting to the stage where, you know, it's no longer a net negative. Sorry, it's no longer a net positive.
Can I ask you something?
Absolutely.
When's the last time you ever seen him with a smile on his face?
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Who would want to hang about with somebody like that?
For sure.
24/7.
Yeah.
No. Close the door. Bye, son.
Yeah, I love that. But I think there's so many better role models that we have in the world.
Absolutely.
I think if that's, you know, like I'm a big believer as well. And the reason why initially that I listened to a lot of what he said, because I fully understand, and I'm someone that's gone through that as well, where I haven't felt like I had a role model. It's always great to have a role model for your parents. That's so key. But you also want to have someone else that you look up to in a different realm. And, you know, I felt like a lot of young boys don't have that in today's day and age. And, you know, thankfully we're starting to see a few more people emerge. I don't know if you would know them. There's a guy I look up to a lot, Chris Williamson. He actually has his own podcast. He lives in Austin, Texas, and just a very straight up guy. Like, he's not extremely controversial. He's a good person. He does things to help others. He's a man. Like, he's a man. He does what he says he's going to do. You can see that he is a net positive for the world. He was on Piers Morgan.
Was he?
Piers Morgan loved
Must
him.
have seen him then.
Piers Morgan
Must have
loved
seen
him.
him. Right.
And he's there to do good. You know, and he's complete net positive for the world. He's someone that really inspires me. It's like your man David Goggins as well. He inspires me a lot. I don't want his life because he's a drill sergeant, like.
Right.
But I feel like there's been such a gap for young boys to have that role model to look up to, and there needs to be someone in there. And I feel like the reason why he rose to stardom in Andrew Tate, obviously initially, because one, his takes were very controversial, but two, there was such a large gap to fill, and I think if anybody stood in that gap, the people would have taken to them. And, you know, obviously it got to the stage where he was saying things that were so out of pocket, which I think that just completely tarnished his name. And, you know, it becomes a net negative then in that case.
You know, to me, he's creepy.
Yeah.
There's not a nice. I mean, if I was going down the street and I seen him, I'd go to the other side of the road. I wouldn't go near him, and that's not like me. If I see somebody that's famous at all, I want to be in their face. To say, hello, how are you doing? It's lovely to see you. Can you sign my autograph? But no, the likes of that lad, and I feel sorry for him. I'd say, I'm on way over here.
So have you got your third person then?
Oh gosh, my third person. No.
What about Messi? You're a big fan of Lionel Messi.
He was a great footballer, I was, but I wasn't.
People didn't really get to know him though.
No.
You didn't really get to understand.
Well, if it became a footballer, I would go for
Ronaldo.
No.
You're not a fan of him?
No. And I mean, he's fabulous. Do you know who I would go for?
Who?
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. So he's before my time. I suppose dead or alive.
He's fabulous.
Is he still alive?
No, he's dead. No.
Okay, well, yeah, the option was dead or alive, so I'll give you that one.
Right.
Okay, so you got the two Obamas and Jimmy Johnson.
He was playing for Celtic, and I'll tell you a story about him, right? And they were playing, it was somewhere like Brazil or somewhere like that, and Celtic were doing very good with Steen.
Jock Steen.
They were winning everything, right? And they came to Scotland. It wasn't Brazil, it was somebody like that, right? And they said, right, if you beat them here in Scotland at Parkhead, Jimmy, he hated flying, apparently Jimmy Johnson, right? Hated flying. You don't need to fly, you don't need to go for the return game, right? So they did beat them and they won very well. So Jimmy turned around and said, that's me, I don't need to go for the return game. But see the people, the country, this team, and I need to work out who, it wasn't Brazil, but it was somewhere like that.
Aye.
The people over there saying Brazil were clamouring to see Jimmy Johnson.
And he didn't go?
No, he did go.
We did.
Jock Steen says to him, Jimmy, you need to go. He says they're crying out for you. They want to see you. That was the fans.
No way.
My hand to God. And he was a dead, humble wee fella. Really lovely.
But when did he die?
Well, a good number of years ago, but it's in everybody's thoughts. In fact, Michael Portilla had a show on the other night, and it was 6:30, and I was watching it, and it was coming into Scotland on the trains. Now he does a lot on the trains, and he went to Hampden Park, and he says this park held 150,000 supporters, right? But they cut it down now, and it showed you glimpses of Celtic and Jimmy Johnson playing, and Jimmy Johnson speaking. He's world famous, Jimmy Johnson. But that was him. Poor Jimmy had to fly all the way to Brazil because the fans over there were clamouring to see him. You know, because he played so well here. So I would say Jimmy Johnson.
Okay, we'll lock him in. And say, when it comes to a legacy, I always think about legacy, and maybe something you don't think about.
Right.
You know,
a legacy of leaving something.
Yeah, a legacy of, you know, when I leave the world, what do I want to stand for? You know, like for
people to remember me for.
Yeah, like for me personally, I always used to, you know, when I started coaching, I was pushing my business. You know, it
Right.
came from a place. I definitely think it came from a place of insecurity.
Right.
Because when I left flight school, I felt like I had something to prove.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I felt like because other kids were off at university, they were off studying, and I wasn't doing that. I felt like,
Right.
probably felt like it's something
You've missed out.
yeah, I probably just felt like I needed to prove something to myself or society, and I was outsourcing that validation to the world. And, you know, maybe, but not a chip on my shoulder, but I just felt like I'm going to put in so much hard work because I need to prove to myself that I can become something and do good work, and help people. And it came from probably a place of darkness or having to prove something, whereas now it's changed to a place of light where, you know, I see the reason why I'm on this earth is to help people and to show people, especially younger people, that there's so much more to life than what they realize, and they're actually capable of so much more than they currently think they are. And that's what I see my life's mission as now, as making sure that we can impact as many people as possible so that they can live a better life and live the life they want to live. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Big question. I think probably just that I was a decent human being, and it was nice to know me, and to think maybe if you had been in my company, you liked me and you got on with me and we could have a laugh together and not be too serious.
We know what you're like when you start your laughing fits.
Eh?
Your laughing fits. You'll remember in the restaurants, sometimes you had a few rosés and then you went off in one, you couldn't stop.
That's me, my best.
Yeah. That's where you like to be.
Just more or less that. Try and make the most of what you've got in life. Please make the most of what you've got and be happy with what you've got. You know, and not think the world's beating you up. Because the world's not beating you up, you're beating yourself up. Do you know what I mean? It's how you are inside and how you approach it and how you approach people. And the more you give, the more you'll get back.
And that was my next question, that if there was one quote, piece of advice that you could give anybody to live their best life, what would that be? And you've maybe answered it there already.
It might have been. I would say just be happy that you've got today and make the most of this day.
I love that. Some people don't get to see that.
I know.
Some people I think it's crazy that some people thought they were going to wake up this morning and didn't.
I know.
And some people that...
We've got the example with Patrick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you've got, every day's precious. So make the most of it and appreciate it. Be happy for it.
I think how much better the world would be if people appreciated what was at their feet.
Aye. But then there's so many sad people about it as well. But I think it's sadness because maybe it's whatever surrounded them and they haven't got out the bit. And they keep thinking people are trying to get at them or take from them, or they've never had really, they couldn't, it's just they're maybe surrounded by negativity. Do you know what I mean? But you don't need to have anything to feel good. You just open your eyes and you should feel good and say thank God. But I would say as well, try and take God into your life. I'd be thankful that you can believe in something that's out there that's helping you or guiding you. Or if there's somebody to thank, or just say thank God for today.
I love that. I enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. And yeah, and I again, that's why I wanted to get you on, because you're someone who, you know, if I had to line up in a list, like who's someone that inspires me the most.
For goodness sake.
No, but you inspire me to be a better person.
Oh, Connie, you couldn't help it. But you look at the example you've got with your father and mother and people round about you, and the brothers you've got as well.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
The threes are wonderful.
Because a lot of people would ask, like, why do you still live at home? And, you know, like, I could live out if I wanted to, no problem. I could live anywhere. And I say to people, well, I know that there's going to come a day where I'm not going to be able to do that.
But why should you let people push you out your home because they think it's a done thing?
Yeah.
Come at a certain age, you should be out.
It's all, yeah.
If you're happy in your own environment and you're content, where else are you going to find that?
I love it. I wake up in the morning Connor and I, we jump in the bin.
It's
He gets
wonderful.
in the brown bin, I get in the blue bin.
Right.
And then we sit and have our breakfast, have the crack at 4:30 in the morning. And then we both drive to the gym in my car, his car, train together. Then we go get a coffee afterwards, come back here, and then we go on with our day.
Right.
In the evenings, we'd all have dinner together, we'd have a crack, and then we'd just do our own thing. And
That's right.
like, if I lived out, I wouldn't have, like, bear in mind, Tia, she lives in London, and I don't want to move to London.
Right.
You know, we'll live together down the line. But at the moment, like, if I was to live out in Belfast, I wouldn't have any of that.
Exactly.
And is that improving my life? Is that benefiting my life? Or is that just succumbing to people's expectations?
I think it's that.
You know?
People think that it's you that's odd, and it's not. It's them have not content in their own life.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have Sonny
Exactly.
in the morning when I come down and he's sitting there. Would you go back to bed, mate? It's 4:30. Or I'd miss that so much. So for me, I don't want to. I don't want to do that to shit.
No.
And I am more than happy with that. And I know I'll look back in years to come and be so glad I made that decision, because I could, I see a lot of people that just rush out. And I understand that some people, they feel claustrophobic or they feel like they need to. But, as I said, I'm lucky. Like, we've got such an incredible environment which is conducive to growing. Like, mum and dad have always been very forward thinking. Like, from a no age, it was always like, push. We can do whatever we can do what you want, and you can excel. There's never been a thing. I've never heard of mum and dad say you can't do that. And I know people's parents are in that position, and if that is the case, I understand then why some people move out. If that environment isn't conducive to growing and living a good life. So I suppose it's been very grateful that that we do have that. And if you don't, okay, how can you surround yourself with friends or in social circles that are bringing you up?
That's right. I mean, I look at yours as well, and I think it's wonderful that you've got kids that are still in contact when you come to the house off and on, that you grew up with from school.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I think what a blessing that is.
Yeah,
that you've kept their friends, or they can meet one another after so long, and you're delighted to see them. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just the pressure in life, modern life, or this type of life, I don't know, that is put on people. And it's just take a day at a time, because you just don't know what's round the corner. You don't know.
I love it.
For anybody. So you can only live for 24 hours if you're living for 24 hours, and make the most of that and be happy in that 24 hours. If you're sad, speak it over with somebody that you can trust and ask for advice to. Do you know what I mean? But don't keep it inside you. Share it. Get it out, because that'll only make you feel worse. But you're better having somebody that you can say, listen, lift the phone to. Listen, do you know what's happened, how I'm feeling today? Did this happen to me or that happened to me? Don't keep it to yourself, because that poisons you.
Yeah, life's better when you don't do it alone.
Aye, exactly.
And there's no weakness to doing it alone either. So there's no weakness to reaching out.
No, there's not.
There's power.
It's great to get a point of view of somebody, and then you can go over that in your mind and think, God, they were right. Mary was right, or Jimmy was right, or something like that. It's like an instant is like your Aunt Rena. Aunt Rena's, when we're going to the airport, right? I think we're there before the pilot arrives. Lucy leaves that early, right? But her idea is, what does my Uncle Jimmy say? You don't know what you're going to meet on that motorway, so make sure you leave in plenty time. So she's got that in her head about what her Uncle Jimmy says about travelling into the airport. Make sure you leave in plenty time. Don't believe in things till the last minute. And things like that. So sometimes certain people say certain things and it does stick in your head, but it's to your advantage. The things that are good, that you'll keep in your head and use that as an example. Think, flip, no, so-and-so said that and they're right. Admit that they were right, and do this or do the next thing.
If there's one phrase that you hope I would be able to take with me for the rest of my days that you said.
Oh, loving the phrase. Oh no, I've heard that one.
What would that be, or what could that be?
Oh God, I would say live for today.
Amen.
Because live for today.
Amen.
Honestly.
I love that. I enjoyed that conversation.
Oh, did you?
I did. Did you?
I loved it.
That was
and
great.
I felt quite relaxed. I'm shocked.
That's what we're about. There's no interview styles here.
Really quite relaxed.
But yeah, listen,
Chills out.
thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. It's episode 11, so that's our first guest episode. You're the first guest episode. You know
Oh
that?
my goodness.
I didn't want to tell you that at the start because I thought that sounds like a lot of pressure. But no, I wanted to break. No, honestly, that you smashed that. That was your first podcast. That's your first podcast you've ever recorded. First and not
Don't
the
say
last.
that. You're making me feel nervous now.
No, well, you've smashed it.
Oh,
So listen,
he's been too kind. He's been too kind.
I'm not. So listen, thank you very much for watching or for listening. And if you enjoy the podcast, please like, subscribe, or follow us. It would mean the world to me. And yeah, other than that, over and out. I'll catch you in episode 11, as the wise man once said. Let's go, baby. Thank you, man.
Bye.
Big love, big
Thank
love.
you.